Okay, and continuing with my reading, we're on page 4 here. A literal reading of the Bible means reinstitution of slavery, coupled with the understanding that the slave master has the right to beat his slave without mercy, since the slave is his money. Exodus 21:21. Children who strike or curse a parent are to be executed. Exodus 21:15-17. Those who pay homage to another god shall be utterly destroyed. Exodus 22:20. Menstruating women are to be considered unclean, and all they touch while menstruating becomes unclean. Leviticus 15:19-32. The blind, the lame, those with mutilated faces, those who are hunchbacks or dwarves, and those with itching diseases or scabs or crushed testicles cannot become priests. Leviticus 21:17-21. Blasphemers shall be executed. Leviticus 24:16. And if the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, the high priest can order the jealous man's wife to drink the water of bitterness. If she dies, it is proof of her guilt. If she survives, of her innocence. Numbers 5:11-31. Women throughout the Bible are subservient to men, often without legal rights, and men are free to sell their daughters into sexual bondage. Exodus 21:7-11. Hatred of Jews and other non-Christians pervades the Gospel of John 3:18-20. Jews, he wrote, are children of the devil, the father of lies. John 8:39-44. Jesus calls on his followers to love their enemies and to pray for their persecutors. Matthew 5:4-4. A radical concept in the days of the Roman Empire. He says we must never demean or insult our enemies. But then we read of Jesus calling his enemies a brood of vipers. Matthew 12:34. The book of Revelation, a crucial text for the radical Christian right, appears to show Christ returning to earth at the head of an avenging army. It is one of the few places in the Bible where Christ is associated with violence. This bizarre book, omitted from some of the early canons and regulated to the back of the Bible by Martin Luther, may have been a way, as scholars contend, for the early Christians to cope with Roman persecution and their dreams of final triumph and glory. The book, however, paints a picture of a bloody battle between the forces of good and evil, Christ and the Antichrist, God and Satan, and the torment and utter destruction of all who do not follow the faith. In this vision, only the faithful will be allowed to enter the gates of the New Jerusalem. All others will disappear, cast into the lake of fire. Revelation 20:14-15. The warrior's defeat of the armies of the nations, a vast apocalyptic vision of war, ends with birds of prey invited to gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses and their riders, and the flesh of all men, both free and slave, both small and great. Revelation 19:17-18. It is a story of God's ruthless, terrifying, and violent power unleashed on non-believers. The fourth angel poured his bowl on the sun. It was allowed to scorch men with fire. Men were scorched with the fierce heat, and they cursed the name of God who had power over these plagues. And they did not repent and give him glory. The fifth angel poured his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom was in darkness. Men gnawed their tongues in anguish and cursed the God of heaven for their pain and sores, and did not repent of their deeds. Revelation 16:8-11. There is enough hatred, bigotry, and lust for violence in the pages of the Bible to satisfy anyone bent on justifying cruelty and violence. Religion, as H. Richard Niebuhr said, is a good thing for good people and a bad thing for bad people. And the Bible has long been used in the wrong hands, such as antebellum slave owners in the American South, who quoted from it to defend slavery, not to Christianize the culture, as those wielding it often claim, but to acculturate the Christian faith. Many of the suppositions of the biblical writers, who understood little about the working of the cosmos of their human body, are so fanciful and the accounts so wild that even biblical literalists reject them. God is not, as many writers of the Bible believed, peering down at us through little peepholes in the sky called stars. These evangelical and fundamentalists are, as the Reverend William Sloane Coffin wrote, not biblical literalists, as they claim, but selective literalists, choosing the bits and pieces of the Bible that conform to their ideology and ignoring, distorting, and or inventing the rest. And the selective literalists cannot have it both ways. Either the Bible is literally true and all of its edicts must be obeyed, or it must be read in another way. Let's see what time it is. I got a couple minutes. Mainstream Christians can also cherry-pick the Bible to create a Jesus and God who are always loving and compassionate. Such Christians often fail to acknowledge that there are hateful passages in the Bible that give sacred authority to the rage, self-aggrandizement, and intolerance of the Christian right. Church leaders must denounce the biblical passages that champion apocalyptic violence and hateful political creeds. They must do so in the light of other biblical passages that teach a compassion and tolerance, often exemplified in the life of Christ, which stands opposed to bigotry and violence. Until this happens, until the Christian churches wade into the battle, these biblical passages will be used by bigots and despots to give sacred authority to their calls to subjugate or eradicate the enemies of God. This literature in the biblical canon keeps alive the virus of hatred, whether dormant or active, and the possibility of apocalyptic terror in the name of God. And the steady refusal by churches to challenge the canonical authority of these passages means these churches share some of the blame. Unless the churches, Protestant and Catholic alike, come together on this, they will continue to make it legitimate to believe in the end as a time when there will be no non-Christians or infidels. Theologian Richard Fenn wrote, "Silent complicity with apocalyptic rhetoric soon becomes collusion with plans for religiosity-inspired genocide." Well, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I think it's a really interesting book, and I hope you guys check it out. And I hope you liked a little bit of the reading I did. I hope I wasn't too boring. Okay, bye.